73.
73.
Still here.
I like you said it. I'm like, wait, we already started. I don't know what I thought would happen.
We have a topic.
We have a topic. Wait, how would it just you introduce it because I don't know.
Oh, you were going to have to introduce it because I'm not quite sure.
So I'm just going to be blabbering on about the topic. There's not like one word summary, but hopefully something will come up later for the title. But so advanced technology or all Earth technology in relation to basically ascension of our being, or what would be the other word for it? Like advancement of our being,
yeah,
or us being able to interact. So here's what I'm trying to say. It's limited because technology at all times reflects the internal nature of our energy system. And because our energy system is such right now, the technology reflects that. And so the technology advancement happens not like incremental, like industrial revolution advance. So I'm talking about leaps and bounds, like all of a sudden, like this whole thing is new, is when we pipe in or tune in into existence of self that is not like in the current.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And when we say technology, it's like to most people today, technology means iPhones and satellites and Tesla mobiles and things like that.
Sense, that is also that.
But what we're talking about today goes beyond that and could be things that to a modern person might almost look primitive, but has vast potential beyond what a naive understanding would be.
To a modern person, it looks primitive.
Here, I'll give an example that would be, I think, really, really easy to digest. Go back 20, 30, 50 years, especially, and people would think that meditation is just some sort of nonsense that people do. Whatever, there's no point. A lot of people, I think, would think that. Nowadays, 2025, everybody agrees there are massive health benefits, spiritual benefits, relationship benefits to meditation. So we would use meditation, we could say, is a technology in this sense.
Yeah. No, but that is to access that technology.
Meditation is a tool to access.
To design, derive, and access the technology.
Okay, yeah. What I'm saying is that for the purpose of this podcast, technology does not have transistors in it necessarily.
Oh, olden day technology.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We're broadening the definition of technology for this beyond what I would have thought technology meant a couple years ago.
Mm.
I say these things because I'm like, I would have a hard time digesting the word technology a while ago. Just like I would have had a hard time digesting the word frequency a while ago. Because it has a meaning, and old me stuck in my ways would fight against that meaning and completely miss the point.
Yeah.
I would miss the point of this discussion because I was too stuck on, that's not technology. That's not what frequency is, ma.
Those people are not listening to that podcast.
Okay. No.
And thankfully you have graduated past those people. Because I don't think we would be sitting here talking about technology otherwise. Yeah, I guess where I see that technology come from would be like I can reach into places and I can see technology that is vastly different than ours and way more advanced than ours. And then I question like, oh wait, I know it exists and I know it exists a multitude of levels. And then I question, okay, why don't we have it? Why are we not experiencing it in this time and space? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the technology, I guess, that I want to talk about is that this advance, what we would perceive as maybe like advanced civilization or extraterrestrial or alien or
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Metaphysical. Hey, here's a great example. The pyramids are something that would be incredibly difficult for us to build today using modern technology.
Yeah.
Could we do it? Probably, but it would be incredibly expensive and difficult. And depending on which theory you subscribe to, the pyramid was built in 20 or 22 years back in whenever
2500 BC. Yeah.
Sure.
That's
let's
the middle
I don't subscribe to that, but let's say that's the case. It's I can't wrap my head around how, people would be manually moving blocks across 20 something years in order to build that. Is there some sort of other technology that was used to either carve and or place and or move those blocks? Maybe. I think so. Or Sacsayhuaman near Cusco in Peru. Also in Cusco, there are these walls of stone that are like, they kind of look like they're melted together. They're these massive multi-ton blocks that are fit together so you can't stick a credit card between them, just like the pyramids. And, we're saying that primitive people did this. And
sticking a credit card between them.
Right. The credit card.
Does that date some technology there?
That's the credit cards. Right. How did they do it? I don't know, but something, it doesn't seem like it's a bunch of people with chisels and, I don't know, levers. I don't know. Some sort of technology that I think has been lost.
Yeah, there's a dude on Instagram that I saw that I think just somebody reposted him on Instagram that showed how ancient civilization moved large blocks, and he has all these levers and all these turning wheels and all these pulleys, and and then that's here's how it is, right? And so there's people out there who are trying to explain it. Maybe this is a good segue. So we listened to Graham Hancock's Ancient Civilizations, and we've been following Graham Hancock for a while now. And I read his Chariot. Is it Chariot of the Gods? Is that his? Yeah. Or was that Eric Doneghy, Chariot?
Oh, Doneghy might be Chariot of the Gods. Fingerprint of the Gods.
Something. Okay. Anyway, whatever.
His book. There it is.
Graham Hancock's book. And I read it to begin with. And he's a big proponent of the idea that there's ancient civilizations are way more advanced than we, one, give them credit to, and then two, have this amazing extraterrestrial or super special spirit, supernatural technology, right?
Right. It's technology that we can't explain using modern
and so
technology.
And so he's trying to target this towards individuals who are maybe still think of transistors and frequencies in the olden terms, as opposed to spiritual enlightened people who are already aware. Okay, we're starting at the baseline is we are not the most advanced thing that has been on Earth. Period.
Right, and advanced, to most modern people, advanced means the newest iPhones and GPS and nuclear weapons and
that's not what we're talking about.
That's advanced in a way. But at the same time, being able to manipulate stone in a way that we cannot today is advanced in a different way. They're both advanced. They're just different.
We're not advanced. I'm sorry. Sorry to burst the bubble.
But iPhone.
Yeah, right. And so this is maybe the next, and maybe we talked about this before, but this is what I want to bring in. This is actually the path that I want to take the conversation into. How technology is developed / advances is based on, and this is so referencing back Isaac Asimov, right? Is that what his name is?
Yeah.
Author that writes about it in the Foundation series, but then is actually truth in the general scope of things of how the universe progresses as far as its advancement in technology, right? And so we, functioning on 3-dimensional level, very, very much familiar with our physicality. So we're very physical. So our expression of technology has to be in the physical form. We haven't talked about this on the podcast, right? You and I just talk about it all the time, but we haven't actually had enough.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. So our idea of healing has to do with, guess what? We will design something that is physical, and then we'll put something, I'm talking about like surgery, right? Or insulin, right? Like, it's a physical thing that we design, right? It has to be a physical liquid that we design, even if it's plant-based, right? We take plant and we derive a physical nature out of the plant. Then we put it inside a needle, right? Or whatever. And then a physical thing that we developed, right? In order to penetrate tissue. And then we insert it in. And then therefore our medicine is a physical interpretation of our physicality, which is a physical body. And then to address and heal it, we then have to adapt to physical implementation of that, right?
Contrast that with Joe Dispenza, who broke his back in 1,000 places in a bicycle accident, was told he'd never walk again, was going to be paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
And he healed himself. I don't remember if he had surgery on top of that.
No, he refused because they said that surgery
they wanted to completely fuse his spine together.
Yes, yeah.
And then, you'd be all, which would be terrible.
Life ruined after that.
Right. And he was a chiropractor, so he understood how bones worked. And he understood, this injury is pretty much a sentence to life paralysis. But he's like, no. And he overcame that through some technology that is not knives.
Yeah. That's what I want. Yeah, this is the technology we're talking about.
Right.
Right. He took the idea that his form is a physical form, right? And then the only way you can heal this physical form is through physical matter, right? Physical interpretation of matter. And he went, wait, what if I look at my form as an energy form and I heal my form, energetic form, through energy? And that is the technology that Earth has been missing. I say missing. Certain people work with it, Reiki practitioners work with it, chiropractors to some extent do work with energy meridians. Asian culture through acupuncture is, basically based on the energetic flows of energy.
And to an extent, like natural medicine, like herbs and...
Yes, right.
Was traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah,
there's an herb for everything.
Yeah. In fact, there's herb for everything. But, you can look at herbalism as an idea of like similar to medicine, right? What penicillin is, right? Is technically is derived from natural ingredients. And then we basically synthesize it into its physical form. And then we introduce it as an agent of antibacterial
as opposed
properties.
to eat this leaf. Is that the difference?
Well, no, I want to take it a step further. Here's the frequency that this leaf is vibrating at. It has an essence within itself that is a vibratory energy. And so what we're doing when we're distilling it, right? Like what is distillation in the standpoint of herbalism is, it's taking its essence, it's taking its energetic essence and introducing it in the form. So you could have pure water that set on the leaf, took on the energetic essence of that leaf, and then you rub it. You don't have to damage the leaf. You can just rub it on yourself. And then the water energetically, through your intent and then interaction with the essence, then has the property of, what would be modern day penicillin.
Yeah. I mean, that's similar to how, was it homeopathy?
Yeah.
Works?
Homeopathy is
they take
distilling.
It and they dilute it by, 100-fold or 1,000-fold over and over and over till, like from a modern scientific perspective, if you were to look at that under a microscope, is there any of the original ingredient left in there? If there is, it's diminishingly small to the point where it quote wouldn't matter. And yet, it works. There are people who have quote miraculous recoveries based on this, this technology, which modern science says shouldn't work.
Yes,
yet it does.
Right. I mean, we attribute it to like
placebo effect or the mind over
or magic or whatever.
But
right?
At the same time, there is a there is a the mind's ability to heal.
Yeah,
the placebo effect is.
Joe Dispenza did not use any medicine. It was mind over matter.
Yeah,
it's quite literally mind over matter. He saw himself as an energetic being, and he realized that as an energetic being, I can control matter because matter is derived from energy. And then therefore I can alter matter from my energetic intent.
The way he words it is that, like, as if your mind somehow creates or triggers your glands or body to create whatever, quote, medicine is needed to make you better. I don't know if it goes to that intermediate step as opposed to like direct healing it. It's like, oh, you have an infection, so your mind triggers something to excrete antibiotics to fight it. I'm not convinced that intermediate step's even necessary.
I mean, he's not wrong, but I think they needs to be clarified and nuanced. Everything is a frequency. So what we use penicillin for, in order to fight bacterial infections, it simply is like, how do we derive it? We derive it from mold. Like, oh, look, there's mold. Okay. I don't know how you decide that, oh, I'm going to ingest it or I'm going to rub it and then all of a sudden bacteria is gone. Do you know what I mean? Like, how, that's a whole other subject there. But the vibratory essence of penicillin, right, has an energetic frequency. And then the disturbance in your body that causes an infection is an energetic frequency. And so then we have associated form of penicillin, right, entering into our form, introducing an energetic frequency that then subdues the inflammation or the infection.
It cancels it out.
Or interacts with it and brings it to harmony. Like, remember recently we have gotten a whole bunch of things that at least I've been seeing on Instagram, how sound music just heals. Like, there's a frequency. There's a Bach's Fifth Symphony. Is that what it is? Beethoven's Fifth Symphony that is allegedly, like, literally helps fight cancer.
Yeah.
Like, I think this thing that I saw now, I don't know obviously how accurate it is. I'm just quoting it blindly.
It's on Instagram. It must be true.
Yeah, but that resonance, the resonance of Beethoven's Fifth, helps to reduce cancer. It was by 20%. Something that said. Now, it is ... in addition to what with, right? You know what I mean? That is what it didn't clarify. I'm assuming it's saying, like, when it's played along with other treatments or not. I'm sure there's the caveat there. But the potency of an energetic frequency, that in this case is just music.
Right. And if you've heard Beethoven's Fifth, there's a lot of passion in it. It's not a subtle piece. It's like the least subtle piece that I can think of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intention that went into that.
Yeah. So,
and in fact, what was the we looked it up, and it was like the dun 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 is described as what, fate knocking at the door? And it's like, that sounds like a cancer treatment, kind of.
Yeah, well, cancer is kind of like fate at your door.
Right.
Like, it's not there to kill you. It's there to give you an opportunity to awaken. Yeah. So that is one aspect of technology that I'm talking about.
It's super easy to go into the medicine.
Medicine is very easy. But then, of course, on the other end, there's like actual technology that, plasma technology, warp drives, communications,
transportation,
electricity, transportation, actual technology that is non-medical.
Right.
That is also part of that. And so that's, I guess I wanted to loop back in, so I don't know what Asimov called it, but this is how the book that I'm reading that we mentioned last time mentioned this as well. So there's like kind of like a 3 spiritual awakening stages of soul, right? Or of soul civilization.
Yeah. The classifications of civilization.
Yeah. Well, he says a classification of civilization, but I don't know if he takes it into the spiritual aspect of it or not.
I never got the impression he did. I thought it was, and I thought his examples were very hard technical.
Yes. But he wrote it from the hard technical standpoint, right? Because I think he's like a Russian sci-fi guy, right? But how it's misunderstood and misinterpreted is actually needs to be interpreted from the standpoint of awareness and awakening, right? Integration of our entire being away from the physical matter as the only interpretation of us, and actually ascension of our thought into us being as a unified being, energetic being. Right, that is the difference. So if you look at his classifications from the spiritual standpoint, and this is what I wanted to introduce here, this is what we're going through right now. And that is technology that I want to explore that we're not experiencing right now. And this is the disconnect, I guess, that I'm feeling that maybe we can discuss post the introduction. So stage 1 would be a civilization that has
Mastered.
But that's the wrong word because it's almost like controls. It's not controls.
Dominated.
That has come into symbiotic relationship with their own planet or sun. Planet, right? So meaning, and I guess, from the material standpoint, you can interpret that as we have taken control of the earth and mastered its resources.
Right. According to the hard science version, I think we are a level 1 civilization.
Yeah.
So we can harness we can harness the energy of Earth, and including sunlight that hits the Earth. So solar panels. I wonder if it's. I think it might be written as harnessing all of the energy of the Earth. It might have been written as all. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but we're not level 1 because from the spiritual standpoint, harnessing your planet's energy. And that is not using your planet up. I want to say we talked about this on the podcast because I remember saying that here.
We mentioned this, yeah.
Okay. It means entering into harmonic relationship with your planet, right?
Yeah.
A symbiotic relationship with your planet and seeing your planet as a live being, right? That's going to be crazy for some people. But then seeing yourself as an energy being and then seeing everything else around you as an energy being, seeing the oneness of all of it and being able to perceive, work with, and be in a symbiotic relationship with Mother Gaia and with yourself as an awakened being that sees the symbiosis between all things.
That's the thing. You have to see the oneness. Because without seeing the oneness, it's okay to, cut down all the forests, and it's okay to, burn all the oil, and the consequences are future consequences, not my consequences. There's no, and not even, this is not constrained to an ecological issue. It's okay to do whatever you want to extract energy and whatever electricity energy and whatever means necessary in order to achieve a goal, as opposed to, oh wait, I don't just have free willy-nilly authority to rape the planet in any way that I want. There are consequences, but that's beside the point. The point is that I am one with you. I am one with that cat. I am one with this rock. I am one with this planet. Mm-hmm. And I innately feel that I would never do something damaging to you
or anything or anyone,
because I would never do anything damaging to myself.
Yeah,
and I would never do anything damaging to the Earth because it doesn't even make sense to do it.
Yeah. To begin with, you all would almost think like, oh, I wouldn't do anything damaging to you because it will come back to me like some sort of karmic. But it's not that. I want to clarify. It's not
I would
that.
never just chop off my finger. But, you can see there are people who are like, sure, I'd chop off that person's finger. He's a bad guy. He deserves it. Oh, no. We're all one. You can, if you're like, well, he deserves this punishment. They deserve this, this country deserves this. That's okay to flatten out this mountain, whatever it is. That's not the place to be.
Yeah, but that is not reaching level 1.
Level 1, yeah.
Of the scale, yeah, right? Of the spiritual awakening scale, or awakening as a civilization, awakening as a soul tribe, or awakening as humanity, let's say, like not humanity, or earthens, right? Mm-hmm. So on Earth, in this time and space interpretation, we have not reached level 1 because what we're doing to the planet is not being in symbiotic relationship with it. And in fact, using materialism and using physicality and misinterpretation of ourselves as light beings to hurt the planet, right? I'm not saying this is not an ecological push. This is not some sort of like, what is
Hug a tree?
What?
Hug a tree?
Yeah, like
although,
right. Well, no, it's not. This is not like a environmental protest. I'm just simply saying, this is not what level 1 civilization
Right.
is.
The environment is almost a side effect of this. It's just another. This isn't about the environment per se.
Yes.
The environment just happens to be like a side effect of this discussion.
And so to reach stage 1, we would have to see ourselves as energetic beings who are interpreting themselves in material form. And then recognize that through this oneness, that is the energetic composition of all of us, and then thus all of our surroundings, including our planet, we are quite literally just one, because we simply play off or interact with or live through frequencies.
Not to open up this can of worms, but
don't go to the Goodwin law, please.
Oh no, I'm not. Too soon.
It's already, they've already had it this morning, so that's the last thing I need.
Religion, to a degree, modern organized religion, Christianity, at least, Judaism, I believe Islam too, but I don't know. Does try to convey the idea that we are spiritual beings in a human 3D body.
Yeah. But I think most of the people within that religion don't subscribe to even trying to understand what that means.
Right. And there's also a lot of permission in the Bible to do, I guess, bad things, especially in the Old Testament, things that, I don't think anybody should do.
Like an eye for an eye type of thing?
Yeah.
Why? I don't even understand why it's there.
I don't know. Did we do the episode where it was like Old Testament God is like literally a different entity than New Testament God?
Yeah, we talked about, we had a episode on religion.
This is a completely different, not like this one turned into that one, or not like this is the same one. Like, no. This is person A, entity A, and this is entity B. Just not the same.
But not to sideline, but in the previous episode, we talked about draconian lower frequency energy, and we talked about ascended energy of the source, which is the higher chakra energy.
Yeah.
I think that is the difference.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't remember where we watched. I mean, it was on Guy. I don't remember who it was, but his take.
It was Paul. Was that I read his
guy,
book?
Right?
Yeah, I read his book. He's an Australian or New Zealand. I can't tell their accents apart. Theological researcher, and like biblical scholar, and he basically, that's his theory, is that the Bible is written to describe this extraterrestrial race that we encountered, and that what we encountered and wrote about in the Old Testament was just a vastly different race of beings than the race of beings from the New Testament.
Right. That the Old Testament God was very, very greedy, very vengeful, very, he almost fed off of people's praise and stuff.
But in our previous episode, think about that. We talked about the draconian energy.
Yeah.
Not passing on the light source, keeping it for themselves as oneness, and then basically deciding what is going to be disseminated to us as the nuggets of partial truth.
Yeah. And whereas New Testament God and Jesus is all love, love, love.
Yeah. There's no difference between you and I. You are an ascended being.
Love your
you
neighbor,
are one with God.
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, religion, I think it to a degree excuses some pretty awful behavior, and like explicitly gives humans permission to kind of do what they want with the earth and the land and the animals and whatever.
Explicitly or implicitly?
It says that man has dominion over the animal kingdom.
New Testament or Old Testament?
That's Old Testament, but
okay.
I don't know if that's,
I wouldn't listen.
I don't know if that's ever overridden in the New Testament.
I'm not familiar with the Bible, but considering the energetic frequency of the Old Testament versus the New Testament, I wouldn't even listen to anything that the Old Testament says. I'm not saying it's all lies.
The way I was raised was like, basically, as you read from the beginning Old Testament through the end of the New Testament, anything can override anything previously said. So, here's an eye for an eye, but then later it's, okay, no, turn the other cheek, love thy neighbor. So that overrides that.
Oh.
But I don't know that anything ever overrides, the man has dominion over animals. And it's, does that mean you get to bring in a cat as a pet? Does that mean you get to kill them willy-nilly because they're on your land? I don't think so. But
yeah, but at the same time, literally our state or state, but definitely state, but I'm not sure about federal law, allows us to kill willy-nilly because they're on land if they're humans.
Yeah.
Right?
The castle doctrine. Oh, if someone's on your land and you feel threatened, which is a low bar in court.
Right. So
right?
that's besides the Bible, we have already written things in our actual laws that I would say go against my thought process of oneness.
Yeah.
Right.
So I get the whole digression was, religion kind of sort of starts off with they would use the word souls, which is an energetic, ethereal thing, not a physical thing. I don't know why I'm pointing here, but that's probably where it is. If it is in 3D space, that are inhabiting this 3D body. And the 3D body, the religious people would probably agree, is a temporary thing. It's born, it lives, it dies, and then your soul goes elsewhere. And we can just leave it at that. But I agree. I don't think most traditionally religious people take that to the level that we're trying to take it to. Yeah,
because you're quite literally in energetic form, right? You are experiencing material world with the material body, right. And that's a gift.
I guess everybody has this little scale. That's the way I envision it. Is how real is the 3D part, and how real is the spiritual part? Let's say,
mm-hmm.
And I think most people, the scale's all the way down on the real.
Yeah.
And the spiritual thing is a afterthought, if that. And that's anything from, what am I going to eat to, where am I going to live, to what's going on in the news, to the politics, to the war, to the this, to that. All those things are super duper real and super duper important. And, do I feel a connection to other humans? I'll worry about that tomorrow because I've got to worry about the politics of the day, whatever.
Yeah. But, maybe to start with, not even connection with other humans. Do I feel connection within the essence of me?
Yeah.
That's where we need to start. That's the only thing that matters. If you don't even feel
connection to your other half, your spiritual half.
Not spiritual half from the standpoint of and this is not to diss religion, but maybe partially to highlight the obvious. On Sunday at 11 o'clock, whenever you go to church, that's not your spiritual half, right? That is just you're trying to connect to something greater. But within that connection to something greater, hopefully the essence of you that makes you feel fulfilled if you go to the right church, right? You recognize that is the you. The true you is the you that is connected to this energetic interpretation of an open heart space, right? That is not just sack of bones and muscles and meat. Do you know what I mean? That needs physical injections in order to heal itself.
Yeah.
Right? The religion has all these, I'm diverting back to health, but all these miraculous.
Yeah. Jesus healed a bunch of people.
No, but what's the church in France? Lourdes, right? That documents all the miraculous healings at the water fountain, right?
Yeah.
That is religious miracles that are documented. They have a guy who's responsible for fact checking all the medical things.
They're actual. It's not just okay, it's been healed, wink, wink. No, they in order for it to be an actual medical miracle, according to the Catholic Church, and we've watched things on this, and there's actual medical doctors, Catholic medical doctors who we need a 10-year history documented that this has been an issue. You literally have not been able to walk for 10 years because, scoliosis or whatever it is. And then you came to Lourdes, and then now you can. And it's very rigorous. It's incredibly rigorous.
Yeah.
It's you. It is not something that would be easy to fake, let alone the number of instances of this by people who have nothing to gain by faking it.
Yeah. No, and they come there in desperation, right?
Yeah.
But you come there open to the idea of miraculous. You come to the idea that, wait, Jesus taught me that I'm not this meat sack, and there's this light, and they connected that light through that flowing water, right? And they actually, the reason why it works is those people have their heart completely open to the possibility that they're connecting to the etheric nature of oneness that is the Christ consciousness. And then they heal miraculously, right? Because they believe with their entire essence of self, they are connected to the essence of them. And then in that time and space, the essence of them is fully healed, right? Because that is the available technological advancement that we are not experiencing right now, right? So in this case, that is how medical technology is going to advance. But all of these examples is the examples of what it would be for us to start interpret Earth, to start symbiotically living on Earth as level 1 civilization.
Yeah.
Which is, we're not done.
We've got a ways to go.
Yeah. But I do want to point out, some people are doing it, and we are doing it. Do you remember that? There's already examples of that.
There are people who do it.
Yeah,
there's people who live it.
Yeah, there's already examples of what level 1 is.
Yeah.
Is it a fraction of us? Yes. Like the yogis, the awakened gurus, some priest, a Catholic priest. There's a story of I don't remember if this is in Yogananda's book or somewhere else. That there's a Catholic priest who was elated with the love of God, and he was a priest, and then so Catholic or whatever, some branch of Christianity, and then he would be in the church, and he would just have his heart open and overflowing with so much Christ love that he would start floating.
I remember that, yeah.
And then, like, the side note that I found it completely hilarious is his brothers would, like, get embarrassed by this, and then they would, like, try to yank him down so he wouldn't go floating off.
I remember that, yeah.
Was that in Yogananda or not? Do you remember? Wherever it was documented. This is a documented case.
I'm trying to remember where, because I heard that too.
Yeah, right. And so
but it was a Catholic one.
Yeah, and so that is what level 1 is in this case. Actually, level 1, possibly, yes. I would 1.5. Right, you are at 1. Your heart is open. Your lower chakras are integrated and accepted into the nature of your own reality. That is, I am not a material form. And your heart is open, thus flooded with love, right? And then, you then start to ascend and see your reality past your material blinders on ways of being.
Yeah.
Right. And so then what we perceive as magic or, miracles or extraterrestrials or alien technology or whatever it is all the same, because when we experience an alien being, right, an extraterrestrial being who's coming in here, and they can in Cusco, going back to that, right, when they can melt rock and then assemble it together in the form of a wall, and then you can't even, stick a credit card between them. I'm afraid that by the time the people will be actually listening to this, there will not be such thing as physical credit cards, and then they will go like, "What do you mean credit cards? Just a bloop on the phone," and then there will be this.
We still have cash, so I think we have a ways to go before credit cards are gone. Unfortunately, especially in the States.
Oh no, the credit cards are kind of going away. Like, I don't carry a credit card with me. I have in my wallet, but I don't carry a wallet with me. And there have been probably more than a handful of times now where I went somewhere, they did not accept Apple Pay, and then I walked away with not buying whatever it is I wanted to buy.
Yeah. Europe,
and I rely on you for carrying the credit card now.
Yeah. Well, it's easy because I carry my ID. I have that little thing that magnets to the back of my phone.
I do too.
I don't remember the last time we were in Europe where I actually used a physical card.
But Middle East as well.
Yeah,
when we were in Turkey.
Turkey, and I think Egypt too.
To some extent, yeah.
Egypt was really cashy though. You needed the cash in Egypt.
Yeah,
But you didn't need it.
It's either cash
Or Apple Pay.
or Apple Pay. Yeah.
Right.
But the cash in, let's be honest, all the remote places that normal people don't go
Yeah.
to.
I'm trying to remember what. No, we did need some cash in Peru. I remember having to go to an ATM.
I don't remember.
I remember being super happy I knew how to say that in Spanish too.
Okay. Wait, why did I? Yeah. So in Peru, right? They talk about from looping back on Graham Hancock's point is they talk about Viracocha, which was like a being that came out of the water, and he came with 7 sages, and he was able to melt the rock with the sun. And that's what they wrote down. Like he was able to melt the rock with the sun, and then like build things by melting the rock with the sun.
Right.
And so like to us, being not level 1, that we don't even understand what level 1 is, much less level 2 and 3, we go, okay, that must be some sort of mythical lore, because that just sounds crazy. So we attribute it to these people being high on ayahuasca and just basically making shit up.
Not only that, but there was he could levitate the stones into place as well.
Yeah, right.
Which is to me even more impressive than melting it.
Yeah, but think about how close-minded we are, that we have this written account. We can read their text. We can have this written account. We have their folklore stories of this. And then we, as a, for sure, Western culture, go, oh yeah, they're just idiots who are making up silly stories. Yeah, like.
But the Jesus things are definitely true at the same time.
Yeah.
Those are.
But because we could categorize Jesus as this other thing, and like Viracocha is a myth.
All these myths are inaccurate and made up and hyperbolized, except this one, Jesus. That's beside the point.
No, but right, we're closed-minded, and if we don't understand energy work, and if we don't understand ourselves as an energy being, that right, materially, you don't even understand that penicillin is an energetic frequency of mold inserted into you, and then thus through frequency and vibration, it heals you. So many people participate in penicillin, but nobody actually wants to actualize and understand how it works, and they want to attribute these physicality to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People who don't even want to attribute placebo effect as being something that is real, right? Like you can't even, right? Like I can't even, because we're speaking 2 different languages, right? But yeah, obviously there's a lot of flaws, because those are the same people who walk around believing in Jesus' miracles. So level 1 is in symbiosis, reaching an energetic harmony with your own planet, and then being able to utilize your planetary resources and technologies for your technological advancement, and then there's growth, such as healing, such as levitation, telekinesis, telepathy, a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Levitate. Did I say levitation?
You did, yeah.
Right. So just level 1, right? And then level 2 would be us being able to harness. But again, when I say harness, that is not like eat up and use up our own sun's energy.
Yeah. Asimov's definition is more like a Dyson ring or a Dyson sphere to capture, if not 100%, a good portion of the energy coming out of the sun. Which, imagine just a massive amount of solar panels completely encircling the sun. That would be a lot of power.
Yeah, but again, that is his interpretation is very much physical material, and how do we, shoot up a whole bunch of fuels out of the rockets and blast ourselves out of our ass up the sky. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very, very
old school.
But that to us, that is
the height of technology.
The height of technology, right? When SpaceX lands their starship and the arms
chopsticks.
grab it, like the entire world explodes and goes, oh my God, you know, look how much as blowing this thing has done. And that's it to us, right? But then no one talks about what happens when we go into the energetic interpretation of Earth and are able to levitate, and then thus have a free energy and have a propulsion energy and have warp drives.
Even in a technology thing, you know, it's interesting how it's portrayed in movies. Like if you look at an airplane, fighter jet or something, the cockpit, it's got, you know, buttons and switches and joysticks and whatever, and you're literally manipulating it in order to fly. Now, if you go bigger to like an aircraft carrier, it's less, you know, one person controlling a joystick and moving it, I think. I mean, there's a
like
captain
on the sea.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Or a big ship. I mean, it's more comparable to the USS Enterprise from Star Trek, where there's, you know, yes, there's a captain and there's a bunch of people sitting around and there's still a bunch of buttons and switches and knobs, right? But that's a step removed from one guy with joysticks controlling things. But now imagine an alien spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Or do they have, you know, joysticks and knobs and things? Has that ever been portrayed like that in movies where they're manipulating things in order to fly? To me, I think, especially the way that these things actually fly. You know, you've seen the tic tac video and all these things where they fly in ways that we can't even comprehend and do maneuvers that would have, you know, hundreds of G's and stuff. I don't think they're flying in the sense that what we would call flying. They're somehow warping space or time or something, and that projects itself into our 3D reality as flying. But that's not what's actually happening. That's just our interpretation of it. But B, I think it's some sort of they can control it with their mind, or they can control it with their body.
Intent.
Maybe what?
It's intent.
Yeah, maybe you put your hands here or something. But it's not like there's joysticks.
Like joysticks that literally control rudders.
I move it to the left, and that moves this flap to the left, or makes the you know, exhaust go this way or that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that.
No. No. It's kind of like telepathic intent driven.
So that is where I think state of the art should be. Not, and I understand, you know, I don't know how propulsion works on that. Anti-gravity, I don't know how it works. I have no idea. And maybe the best that we have on Earth right now is shooting hot gases out of the butt of a rocket. Maybe not. But
yeah, well, but this is what I want the episode to be, is to highlight that the nature of the limited reality that we're facing based on our technology, such as, you know, starfaring technology, only comes out in its limited form because we're not in the symbiotic relationship with ourselves, where we see our being beyond the material interpretation and start seeing ourselves as energetic oneness. Do you see what I mean? And so,
I don't know that you fully define level 2.
There's some. You harness the level of you're in symbiotic relationship, and then thus able to use the energy of your star. That is level 2. And then level 3 is you're able to use the energy of
multiple stars,
have galactic reach. And, you know, at that point, you're bending space and time, and then you're actually controlling reality. Right. So that is the 3 progressions. But maybe from the actual application standpoint, I want to say how you get there, I guess, because this is something that I'm maybe slightly confused with. But maybe I'll reintroduce this. When we start entering into loving relationship with ourselves and raise our vibrational frequency so much, this is, again, maybe going back to our previous podcast where we talked about the integration of the lower 3 chakras integration and then basically ascension of those chakras through full integration, trauma processing, and then thus energy propagation to where you open those channels up, open your heart channel, and then go into your upper three chakras. You're using your entire life force, your entire pranic force as an interpretation of self. Thus, you see the symbiotic relationship of you with everyone else. Thus, you see the symbiotic relationship of you with your planet, right? And all beings, all creatures, all plant life on your planet. That's level 1, right? And then being able to graduate from that understanding and then go, wait, I am of light. So from the spiritual standpoint or from the awakening standpoint, that is where you go into the level 2. And when you go, oh, I am of light, look at the infinite amount of energy that I have to now interpret my reality on a different scale. Thus, you start reaching number 2. And that is what you do not have, bud gases, rockets, and you go into infinite amount of energy, like quite literally infinite amount of energy interpretation. And then you have to graduate into this idea that you are the creator. And then thus you create through thought and you create through manifested reality of oneness with the unified source. This is going to Nassim's unified field theory, to where through this understanding, through this ascension of your being, your conscious ascension of your reality, you ascend into technological interpretation of what it means to be level 1 or level 2 human, or ascended earthen, or an earthen that is one with this environment, as opposed to only interpreting its environment in material 3-dimensional form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't even know what I just said, but I'm assuming that it made sense. Right. And so this is what I want to point out is the second we, or majority of our population, starts to function from that standpoint, the energy, thus technology, upgrades like that. Like immediate shift to where the old ways wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
The fact that the old existed would be like, well, yeah, we kind of had to have that in order to interpret our reality because the only thing we knew was material. But the second we realized we're no longer material, or we were never only material and we were actually energetic, then this here's a whole other playing field. It's almost like here's the sandbox and here's the sky.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of examples of that in the actual 3D technology world. It's like, growing up, we had a landline phone tied to the wall with a little cord, and we had a long cord. We could make it, I don't know, it's coiled cord, but we could probably make it 20 feet away from the phone on that thing. And then, cell phones, mobile phones come out, and it's like, it doesn't even make sense to have a landline. We have not had a landline the entire time we've been together, because 20 something years. This doesn't, what? So this, it's like, that's now, it's like, first this is necessary. This is the most important thing in the world. And then it's, well, that's dumb. I don't want that at all. Now we have this. And same thing with, going to an electric car. It's like, oh yeah, okay. That's just, it's so obvious that this new way is just better in every conceivable way. But I think this will happen with all kinds of things. I mean, this, again, medicine's the easy thing. All these, drugs, which, may help, but also may have some serious side effects.
Or just actually throw the system off balance even more so than they knew good that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you take this, but okay, well, you take Advil because your knee hurts, but at the same time, it's damaging your liver. Now maybe you have to take something to help your liver, but that's causing some other problem, and this and that. It's like,
this is off sideline, but if everyone in the United States just stopped taking prescription medicine and started meditating for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes a day, just the bare minimum, oh my God.
Right.
But everyone is too afraid to get off their meds because the doctor said you will die otherwise. So through that fear and propagation of the fear, they just live in this stuck material pattern of an interpretation.
Right.
Right? They're not even allowing their prana, their life source, to start healing them, because through the physical interpretation of their reality, thus the medication being this physical crutches that they are basically relying on, they're killing themselves through prescription meds. They're allegedly saving their lives, but they're actually killing
Right.
them.
And it's, I don't know. I mean, is there a place for some of these? Maybe. I don't know. But I think there's definitely a place for internal healing. Whether
Which
that's
most people don't even
most
try.
people don't know about, B, wouldn't believe in even if they did know about it, which is unfortunate because there are so many. Kevin Courtney, he was diagnosed with, was it stage 4 lung cancer, which is, that's a big deal. That's, that sounds like a death sentence. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he went through immunotherapy, chemical immunotherapy. But at the same time, he completely changed his diet, completely changed it. I mean, most people would have this, oh my God, I'm so scared of cancer. Fuck cancer. I hate cancer. Let's destroy cancer, fight cancer mindset. And he went into this, I love my cancer. My cancer is here to teach me something, which is not an obvious place to go for most people. But Kevin's a pretty enlightened dude. Yes, he went through some, traditional medicine, but at the same time, he changed his diet, went full green, eating a bunch of green stuff, no meat. It sounded like he did an awful lot of meditation, an awful lot of yoga. I'm not sure what else, but 1 year later, he is cancer free. That, quote, doesn't happen very often when you're, chemotherapy, radiation, whatever else, cut it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a giant medical success story. That how much is the medicine? How much is the lifestyle? How much of it is the mental state and spiritual state?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that seems like a winning combination to me.
Yeah. No, you also said this is something that registered with me, because whenever you were telling me that, like certain things hit you and others don't. And what hit me was he realized what he was doing for a living, like his purpose in life. And like he said that he decided to rethink his path of what he was going to be doing for a living. Not doing spiritual stuff, just like applying himself more to the actual things as opposed to like larger scopes of it, which I thought that is probably the biggest disconnect that we have within ourselves, is being in the position where we feel like we're doing something with our life, that the goal of living on earth is to have a life experience. But if what you do day to day is not in the alignment with your higher self, like honestly, it's not even higher self. It's, you can kind of feel it with your heart centers. Like if it just doesn't spark excitement and energy, chances are you're not in alignment, right?
Right.
And so if you're not in that pure sense of excitement to where you're just giddy to get up in the morning and love what you do, that kills you slowly.
It does.
And especially if what it is you get up in the morning and you dread the rest of your day, and you can't wait till the weekend, and you drink and you smoke and you do drugs just to get through the week. So then come Monday morning, you have enough reset over the Saturday and Sunday in order to wake up in the morning on Monday and not kill yourself.
Right. And that could be anything from this company is not aligned with me to this particular role in this company is not aligned with me. Right.
Yeah.
It's a great nonprofit, but I hate being an accountant there. Maybe. I don't know. If you're not doing something with your life, if what you're doing with your life is misaligned with you, with your soul, that is a surefire way to end up sick.
Yeah, right. Well, it's basically your prana wants to flow. And if instead of you allowing your prana to flow, what you actually have is this regret and dread and fear and scarcity, then your prana doesn't flow. You're
Right.
locked in your lower 3 chakras. And if you stay there long enough, just being completely locked up, you don't even know who self is. You
Right.
lose yourself.
Yeah. And I know it's tricky because both of us have been in positions where we're working for companies that we don't necessarily hold in the highest esteem, their purpose and their mission and their job, but yet we're making a lot of money. And it's like, oh, what are we going to do? I mean, that was a long time ago, but I understand how tricky that can be.
But I want to look at it from an energetic standpoint, right? Are you in oneness with your higher self? Are you seeing yourself as an energetic being and then allowing the energy to flow and integrate your lower 3 chakras with your heart center and then going up? And if the energy is not flowing through that system, if you're not allowing yourself to fill the fullness of your heart, really 100% of the time, like 24 hours in a day, if we're talking about, earth and interpretation, then there's something wrong. And you're shutting yourself off from your true energy source, right? From the oneness of your heart. And so going back to level 1, you can't even perceive what a level 1 would be if you were just stuck in the survival mode of like, heck, I'm just trying to make it day through day. What the fuck are you talking about? Me being an energy being, and here's enlightenment, and here's energy, and here's healing, right? Because you are stuck in the material form of lesser than.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, it's like, I understand like the earth and human condition and why we would be so lost and why this conversation would not even be possible with someone who's drowning, right? Quite literally, because you're literally drowning because you have no air and you have no light. And so thus your being is just slowly withering away. And depending on how much time you have been living in this closed off chakra system and not allowing your heart energy to flow, that is what earth lifespan reflects, right? We talked about it before. Because we have been so drowned in material form, our lifespan is like, 70 years is pretty good. Right. But I think I mentioned this before, but like I've overheard somebody say whenever I was eavesdropping, they're like, oh, I don't want to live to 85.
I remember that.
Right. But that is not a one-off thought process, right?
Right. They don't want to live to 85 because their 40 years of life or 50 years of life has been suffering.
I don't want to continue to suffer for another 30 on top, right?
Instead of
so like they're willing
instead of any sort of thought into why am I suffering? What can I do to change that?
Yeah, no, it's very difficult.
There's no account. It's just I'm resigned that this life's going to suck. So maybe let's get it over with pretty soon.
Yeah. So that mindset is very earth centric, right? But in order for us to ascend and start, one, healing ourselves, two, healing our relationships, healing our planet, we have to go into level 1, which is start integrating our material form and opening it to the flow of energy that is actually our being, which is everything we talked about for the 72 episodes before this. And then basically through that process, start to ascend ourselves into level 1, symbiotic living with our planet. But that would be us being a different human, right? And so I don't know, would it be useful to talk about what's on the other side? Do you have access to that, or do you want to just talk about it and then clarify it, or not?
Other side.
Like if we're level 1, what is the reality then, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Right. Because, well, I mean, one, we already gave an example of what happens, the miraculous healings that happened.
Yeah.
We're using natural resources of our planet when we're in a symbiotic relationship with the energetic flow to start interpreting everything around us as energy, right? So I will throw in a term that, maybe people consider woo-woo and nobody wants to address it, but like the olden days term of ether, right? That is what level 1 utilization can present itself as is we look at this thing that is it a what is it what would we classify ether as a sixth element, or like what is it, elemental?
Right. The old Michelson-Morley ether type thing was some sort of, it's thought of as some sort of substrate that light would permeate, would transport light waves, electromagnetic waves through. And it's like a medium. It's a medium in as much as air is the medium that sound waves would go through. The ether is the medium that light waves would go through.
Okay.
And I believe specific to light and electromagnetic. It was this theorized substance or etheric fabric that permeated the entire universe, and that is what allowed light waves to propagate, because we can't wrap our heads around a wave without something to wave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're like, well, light's a wave, and we have really good evidence that light is a wave. But sound is a wave, and sound doesn't work without a medium to wave. Just like an ocean wave doesn't work without water.
Yeah.
Light waves don't work without ether, except it seems that they do in the Michelson-Morley definition of ether.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of modern day scientists have been trying to go away from the idea of ether because it just has such a polarized charge.
It's one of those lose your tenure type of topics.
Yeah, but they have been trying. But other scientists have been basically taking that concept and rebranding it or calling it by a different name, like field theory. I think somehow encompasses the idea of that. And so, but maybe this is what I want to do is I want to like kind of define it and like stop me if I'm starting to go crazy. But from the technological standpoint or a technical standpoint, if all matter, right, all matter on our planet or in our dimensional interpretation of reality comes out of the source, right, that is propagation of one source, the light, oneness, some people call it God. When it disseminates down through the relay stations that create our reality, then what we don't see, because we interpret ourselves solely from the physical standpoint, and our light spectrum only allows us to see a very narrow band of light interpretation, is the rest of it, which is 98%, I think somebody said, that is ether, right? That is energy, that is light source, that is actually the source of our existence. So other civilizations out there, like other advanced civilization, aliens or whatever you want to call it, like Pleiadians and Syrians and Lyran, but we're all Lyran, but like the original Lyran, disseminate their propagation through realization that I can grab this and I can use this with a symbiotic relationship of my mind and intent to then produce X, right? And then now I'm holding X. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we walk blind to the reality of our existence that, let's say 98% of things around us is something that we can work with, that is malleable, and then we are interacting with and interbreeding with and actually using in some way, but all subconsciously and on this unknown level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they like this, for example, Pleiadians are, I'm not sure on the level 3, but for sure in level 2, spiritual level of understanding where they can transverse time.
I mean, if they're there and they're here, I think they're level 3.
Yeah, but they can disseminate themselves into 3-dimensional form while still being an etheric being, as a light being, but then therefore use their 3-dimensional interpretation of reality while in the complete awareness and familiarity with, let's say, what I would call ether or the light source energy that is all around us.
Yeah. I think there are some scientists on Earth who are on, I don't know if it's the accurate path, but on the right path. I think Nassim is one of them. I don't know if it's his theory or someone else's theory that it's basically bringing back the ether, but in a different type of context. There's this lattice, fundamental lattice underneath the reality that we experience. And I don't.
What does that mean underneath?
I might have this completely wrong, but so there's the idea of that. Now I'm going to say all these things that as if they're true. Let's for the sake of this pretend that all these things are true. Speed of light is the fastest thing out there. And there's at the same time there's this idea of Planck time, which is the smallest amount of time possible. Like if you divide a second down and it's something times 10 to the negative 58th of a second, it's some incredibly short amount of time, right? So speed of light, how far light moves in that amount of time is the Planck length, right? It's some tiny fraction of a meter, 10 to the negative whatever of a meter, right? So if you imagine 3D time as this grid of Planck length, instead of every centimeter or whatever, it's every Planck length. That stuff is either there or not there. It's almost like this mesh that stuff moves through. Now, does that bend with gravity? I don't know. How does electromagnetic waves interact with that? I don't know. Maybe the wave is there or not. I don't know how it works, but there's some, I've heard this theory, and, as a relatively lay person in this, it made sense, and it seemed like, okay, this is worth exploring. And they said, we got to be careful because the word ether is a career death sentence. We can't call it ether, and they had some other name for it. But it's basically the idea of this structure underneath our reality. It's underneath and invisible to us because we can't see something of the Planck length. It's like definitionally impossible to see something that small. You can't see it. Electron microscope. No, electrons a billion times bigger than a Planck length. You can't see it. So it's invisible, but yet it mathematically makes sense. And through that theory, it explained things in a way that made sense to me and predicts things. And I think it also allows for things like 0-point energy and like allegedly in 1 cubic centimeter of vacuum in space, there's like enough energy to power the planet for a year or something like that, which I don't understand how that works, but really smart people have said that. So I will at least believe that there's something worth exploring there. How do you get that energy out? I don't know, but I think it has something to do with, manipulating that mesh.
Yeah. What we're trying to do right now, what Nassim is trying to do is he's trying to take these etheric terms that exist on the awakened scale of reality of ourselves interpreting ourselves as energy, and he's trying to disseminate them down into our material form.
Yeah.
And basically create this new
scientifical
interpretation of reality that only exists if you see yourself as a unified being. You have to see yourself as a unified being. So all of his experiments and all of his things make sense and are actually true if he's functioning at the open heart space of the unified self as oneness.
Well, traditional modern physics says that there are 4 fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong force, and the weak force. And Nassim has somehow mathed away the strong force and the weak force. Like the I don't remember. One of them is what holds the nucleus together. Maybe that's the strong force, and one of them is what maybe keeps electrons in orbit. I don't know.
Right.
They always seem to me like wishy-washy. We can't explain this, so we'll just pretend there's this other force. And I'm sure that there are experiments and reasons to imply that those are there. Otherwise, I think they would have been never have it. But he has somehow reduced it to just gravity and electromagnetism. And he says that his math works. So I assume that that's also true. But he's taking a wildly different approach to physics than most traditional scientists, which, right or wrong, I think that's needed. I think we need wild cards out there going, what if everything we know is wrong and we look at it from this completely different angle? And,
but that angle is, spiritual ascension.
It is a spiritually inclined angle. It is from this. It's certainly not locked into the science of today.
Right.
And, his science is right. His science is wrong. Whatever. All we need is one of these crazy theories to pan out, and we will have revolutionized the lives of everybody on Earth.
It's not that. This is what came to mind, and I don't remember the details, so I will not know any of it. But there was a scientist back in the 60s or 70s that revolutionized some sort of crazy thing. And maybe you'll remember the details about this, because we actually had footage of like him and his assistant, who was a female. And
that's already groundbreaking in the 60s to have a female scientist.
Well, no, she was his assistant.
Oh.
Like a secretary type of situation.
Okay, never mind.
So yeah, she was in the right place for the 60s. But he did some revolutionary work, right? And it was just shocking. Like,
in what field?
I don't know. He was basically like, as far as we would concern, bending matter. Like just like, this is against the law of physics right now, right? And they documented, maybe this is before 60, because there's a video camera and they have like this documented shit, and people would just gather, and it was just like revolution, or whatever this was really revolutionary, right? And we saw this on Gaia on some sort of documentary of an example of just what it means to use your energetic force and then basically reach advanced technologies that were like, what the heck is happening, right? And then like there was the ... caveat there is that it would only work when his assistant was there. So he was not, he was a scientist and she would help him in his scientific experiment, but the world would see this as a breakthrough from the physical scientific standpoint, but it only worked when his assistant was there.
So it's not the process itself. There's something above and beyond the process itself that makes it work.
Yes. And the theory that this thing proposed at the time, which completely is correct, is she was in such an elated, heart open space, enamored space to have this work for him, that she was accessing energetic frequencies completely opened to our interpretation of reality, that is the light, and then having it come into reality that was against his own belief of closed-minded scientific interpretation at the time. Yeah. So even though he did not believe that this would work, but then she basically brought this energy through her heart open space, even though he did not have a heart open space, she would make this work. And then to him, it was revolutionary. So he would get happy. And she would basically get elated and happy about the fact that she was making him happy. Now, I don't know what kind of romantic relationship they had to have that involved, because I would venture to say that in order for her to be that elated and happy, she would have had to had heart open connection to his outcome of happiness, and then thus,
Yeah, no, that's where my mind went to. But
that is usually how that works. But I want to say, females have this open heart intuition, much more so. I'm not trying to diss you as a male, to things outside of the norm from the scientific standpoint. Like with me, because I will admit, because I'm just complete idiot when it comes to physics and science and technology, and the closed-minded perspective of the knowledge that I have from the technological standpoint does not draw any limiting notions of how things might work from the etheric standpoint of interpretation of light, because I quite literally cannot comprehend science.
There's something to not understanding how something works, or not understanding all the theory behind it, or the laws and limits behind it, frees you from being bound by them.
Yeah,
like if there's, there's the Collison brothers who started Stripe. I think I want to say that they said if they knew how, they didn't know how awful it would be to deal with credit cards and banks and all that stuff.
I thought they came out of a credit card processing industry for some reason. I read an article about them, unfortunately, a long time ago. I thought they're like, oh my gosh, this industry is so broken. Let's try to revolutionize it.
Okay.
And cut all the crap out.
Maybe it was someone talking about, to a normal person, you have to not know how bad it is. If you know how bad it is, you're never going to bother to go into it. It's too big of a hurdle. But if you don't know how bad it is, then only then can you actually attack that problem. You're not limited by this idea. Oh my gosh, thinking. We have to get the contracts with the banks, and we have to do this, and it's an insurmountable challenge to make a new credit card processor.
You're not in a physicality, right? You're not drowning into a predetermined outcome of physicality, where you're already, to begin with, starting with limiting factors.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Right.
That's what innovation usually is you go, screw the status quo, screw the fear factor. There's got to be a better way. And you're in an open heart space to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is the example of all the physical implementation of technology that we have right now. They're revolutionary, is because those people go into this open heart space of not being in the fear of the current situation, but being in an elated feeling of something else.
Yeah.
And then what drives you and pulls you forward is you're reaching into the ether. Like all the, Silicon tech companies flow out of this like open heart space of, oh my God, what if we just give this to the people? What if our love, Airbnb, I don't know what the dude's name is a perfect example of this, right? He went, oh my gosh, most of the time, young people who don't have high incomes can't travel around the world because they can't afford the hotel rooms based on the rate that they're charging. But surely there is some people out there who will be willing to land a space in a living room with a blow-up mattress who will allow people to go there and not be limited by the notions that the hotel room is $700 a night.
They make money. They have a cheap place to stay. We make 5-10%. Everybody wins.
But he was driven by this notion of giving somebody a possibility to explore the world, to get to know America, to get to know Canada, or get to know, Italy, by being able to go there and afford a place to stay. And that excitement in the life, right, allowed him to facilitate what is Airbnb right now. Yeah. Now, granted, it has surpassed the air mattress in the living room situation, but that is the drive that took him outside of the scope of like, it wasn't done out of fear, like, oh, I'm afraid. Like, what if we open a possibility to me, like just me, who's poor, being able to explore the world easier?
Yeah.
And that surpasses physicality. It surpasses fear-based living, fear-based thinking. And we enter into this unlimited flow of ether or light source energy or unlimited force, and we utilize it.
Another example is Marcel Vogel, who was a, very, hard science guy, material science guy, worked for IBM. And only after he saw with his own eyes the communication that could be done with plants,
That's how he started. Yeah.
he saw that, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, there's something here." And then it completely shifted away from that into, people would say esoteric or, spiritual type path of still doing research, still doing science, but now it's, what can crystals do? Oh my gosh, they can do all kinds of stuff. They can heal people. What can we can communicate with plants? We can communicate with plants across 1,000-mile distances. Things that don't make sense from a traditional scientific thing, but he did it, and he's not the type of person to just make it up or lie about it. He did it. He documented it. He reproduced it over and over and over.
Yeah, and he was shunned from the scientific industry because he said it was such a, I love him because he said, I would have never chosen this path, right?
Yeah, he had a wonderful job at IBM for decades.
And prestigious standing in the scientific world.
Yeah.
But the second he went into this stuff, like, guess what? Plants talk, and I can transmit energy with my thought and heal somebody, and then use crystals to amplify that.
Yeah.
For layman person. And he he was shunned from the scientific, I guess, standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden he was interacting with this matter that was not physical interpretation of reality. Right, not material interpretation of reality, and he was reaching into ether or into the light energy or to the source energy. Really, it's ether is just a different name for the source, and the source is just a different name that people use to describe God. And do you know what I mean? But it's creation. It's the energy of creation that it permeates all being.
Right. And we all get little glimmers of call it inspiration or ideas or just the feeling. We all get that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we get it in our dreams too, but we get it in our waking state.
Yeah. No, to me, like,
I think everybody has probably experienced that a time or two, at least.
Yeah. Like, this is, I've said this before, but like, maybe I can't emphasize this enough. Flowers to me is the utmost real expression of ether in its most unsurmountable form of pleasure. Like, what a flower does in this material form, in its interpretation of material form, is pure magic. Between the scent, the color, the transitory phase between a seed into a bloom, and then the healing properties and the energetic frequencies that it dissipates out. And I mean, I say flower, all plants, but of course, flowers to me is like next level because they smell. Right? That we just have enormous untapped potential of not to take over, not to conquer, not to use up, but just to work with flowers, to work with plants, to work with clay, to work with dirt, to work with gravel, natural resources of our planet in a symbiotic relationship that would make us, my gosh, rich beyond our means. Not that richness is
not rich in money, monetarily rich, but rich in life.
In life, like the experience that is Earth that we came here to have would be at the peak fulfillment points. And so what we're chasing, what we're missing, like when you wake up and you go, fuck, something's missing, right? Do you know what I mean? Like prior to our energetic evaluation into self, and we were very much drowning in our material interpretation. We were like, something is missing. I don't know what is missing. That is what is missing, is you interpreting yourself as a light being. And just like waking up and go, oh my gosh, how can I interpret Earth today? Really both from the material standpoint, but also from the exacerbated standpoint of, is there exacerbated the right word? Of oneness. Like, how can I interpret myself in more oneness today? That is where the prana lives. Like, that is where the life force of the universe feeds you whole. And that is the only place really that you can be satisfied. And so none of us can be satisfied unless we're feeling that energy. And if you're living your life not feeling that energy, that is because your soul self, your energy force, your incarnation into this form is really calling you to it. That is like a whisper that you're always feeling in your ear, that you're like, what is happening? That is what is happening. You're being called into this awakening. You're being called into integration of your whole self, not from the material standpoint of being, but from the etheric standpoint. That is why religion, resonates with people, because it touches on that.
Yeah.
It touches on like, wait, there's this love, there's this oneness and Christ consciousness and this unlimited amount of, and if the preacher says something right, if you go into the church and there's this resonance and then there's the abundance, which is what I feel from flowers, and you're just drowning in this endless love, that is what you're touching. You're touching on your oneness with self, on the etheric oneness, the ether oneness, that is you, that is one with the source.
That's beautiful.
No, I know. I go into some sort of preaching mechanism here. But yes.
You need a Bible. Start thumping it.
Thumping, like once again, I'm thumping. There's always at the end of some podcasts that I reach some we're thumping. And then, we go into that. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. Stage 1, that is what stage 1 actually is. Stage 2, us taking that, being able to work with that. So it will take some time for us to understand what that is. But it will be very quick. Like this book that I'm reading says that it will be very quick. Because our ascension from stage 1 to stage 2 will be much quicker.
It does seem like less of a leap from 1 to 2 than it is from, I guess, 0 to 1.
Yeah. 0 to 1. Well, misguided one, right? That's the problem, is that we never knew that we were at the 0 and then we need to make our way into 1. We were forced to believe that we were at 1. And that is the misguided version of our interpretation of reality. That is why we're so lost. It's not that we're not on this path. We are falsely made to believe that we're on this path. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So through that Old Testament ways of being, we're deceived into our awakening. Like and this is crucial. Like I know this is going to make some people depressed, but we are made to believe that we're on the right path of ascension, where in fact we're completely like 180 degrees away from that path.
Yeah, I mean, especially in Western cultures that promote just the wrong things, promote materialism and dominance and everything that is not love.
Yeah, everything that is not love, but nothing can function in this world unless it is one of love. So even the material progress that we have, it still comes out of somebody being with love.
Right. And that's not to say that stuff is bad. That's not to say that money is bad.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Or, I want to make that very clear. There's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with having stuff or nice stuff or whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is that the idea that is the goal, and that's completely divorced from the idea that you're here for this 3D experience, but there's a part of you that is greater, that transcends that almost everybody just completely ignores.
Yeah. Well, like Pleiadians and Sirians and Lyran cultures, when they interact with our 3-dimensional form, right? When they decide to go into 3-dimensional form, they see this solely, which is what we were meant to be, as facilitation of further progression of experience that is still one with the source, with the light source. Do you see when they see what we're meant to have Earth as an experience of ourselves and furtherment of interpretation of reality, and not as drowning in materialism and fear and sorrow and dominance.
Right. You could imagine 2 people coming into the same situation. There's someone, someone hurt on the street, right? And one of them is a let's say it's a awakened priest, let's say. And the other one is this, corporate lawyer. what they would bring to that, just from their background, they'd bring to the same situation. The priest would be, I assume, I want to help you. How can I help you? All that stuff. But the lawyer might have in the back of his mind, well, I better not say this because that might imply something. If I do CPR, but I fail and I break a rib, he could sue me. Those things wouldn't even cross the mind of let's say a priest who's just trying to help.
Yeah.
In the same way, people who are connected to their higher self would bring that along to everything that they do, and people who are not wouldn't bring that, and may in fact bring, whatever other life experiences they have along with them.
No, I love that example. That is absolutely right. That's absolutely perfect. It's right. Your lens, right? To a hammer, everything is a nail. Like if that's your lens,
even if the lawyer wants to help, even if the human nature of helping one another is in there would be this hesitation of, oh yeah, but I could get sued. Oh yeah, but if it goes wrong, they may blame me. How could this work out bad for me? Doesn't even occur to the priest.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, you and I kind of facing that situation today.
Yes,
very similar to that, right? Like legal nuance versus what is heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that comes from this is the extension of that, is that if you see a situation going down the line of not heart, in this case, not because it has anything to do with you, this is just the mere nature of how this person is functioning.
Right.
You can have compassion, you can have understanding, but at the same time, you could choose to engage or not engage.
That's true. Yeah.
But always from the heart standpoint, right? Because the right thing to do would be to always engage from the heart.
Yeah. I mean, it's all too easy to engage, not engage from a fear or from a pain body perspective of, oh, I need to do this in order to protect myself, or I need to not do this in order to protect myself, That's the obvious place that people go. That's the easy place to go.
Yeah.
It's a lot more nuanced to do it from love.
Yeah. It's harder.
It's harder.
Because you're right. You're still a human, and you have to ascend past the triggers that causes.
You have to be aware of the triggers, aware of the pain body that it's poking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see compassion for where they're coming from. And that is their course in life.
Yeah.
But this does not have to be your course in life.
Yeah.
That's difficult, especially if you still have remnants of a pain body like you and I do, and we get triggered by similar pain bodies, right? Because it's there because we're in resonance of it. It came into us because we're in resonance thereof. Do you know what I mean? This is another thing. Like it's similar. We just watched an episode on Gaia about a lady who talked about hoodoo, right? And it's a Black American form of healing, divination, working with energy. This is just a side life. Botany, very much botany, plant, and earth. So everything that you and I just talked about that would be level 1 is kind of like what she interprets hoodoo. Root work is another name for it, right? And so Regina, who was interviewing her, asked her like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you are over here trying to bring back this form, or trying to like teach the masses about this. And I thought it's very interesting because she like kind of stopped Regina in a very like dramatic way. And she went, no, I'm not. I'm not here to force this onto anyone, right? I'm here to introduce a concept. And then if it resonates with you, you can choose to take it on or not take it on, but not to override or preach to the masses.
She's not out to
preach to the masses.
What's the word she used? Proselytize?
I don't know what it.
Like to out there getting on your Apple box and preaching to the masses. It's just not to do that. It's here it is. You interested? Come on. Not interested? That's cool too. But it's not.
Yeah.
That.
So like.
I mean, she's obviously very passionate about it. It has nothing to do with her personal passion about it.
Yeah.
It's about She in no way wants to force this on anybody at all. But at the same time, she would welcome anybody who is interested.
Yeah. That's the difference. I guess, this is the same problem you and I have with religion.
Yes.
And it comes across, you can be religious, but you don't have to be maniacal about it.
Right.
And that maniacal approach to religion does not come out of love for Christ or love for Jesus. It comes out of a pain body that quite literally is the opposite of what Jesus is teaching.
Right.
Right. You're mistaking your maniacal application of religion from something that is anger against something. And
or fear.
Or anger is actually fear. Yes, it's fear. But then,
if I don't do this, then I'll go to hell. Perhaps at the most fundamental level.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, the nuance
if I do
of it
this,
doesn't even matter.
then people will really think that I'm a good guy. Perhaps there's any number of.
Yeah. But that maniacal prophecy of religion or any ways of being, like here's the way or the highway, is not actually service to anything. It turns off most of the people on, because what it is actually pain body coming through, disguised as this like, oh, look, I am preaching the word of God. The example of that, we talked about, this is silly, but our kids are into Mr. Beast's Amazon series. And so we're fall into the default of that. And so we're watching, Mr. Beast, I don't know, whatever they're called. They're on Amazon Prime.
Beast games?
Whatever it is. But it's basically convoluted scenarios to show people's true nature. And that's why everybody's addicted to it, is because it showcases the evil or the love that everybody would internally have within them.
There are a handful of people who come across really as villains, and a handful of people who come across really, really well, and a whole spectrum in the middle.
Well, it's because the goal is to push your buttons as much as possible. And then why people are drawn to these type of shows is because it showcases something so extreme that you don't see in real life, because most people are good at hiding things, because none of them are put under pressure.
We talked about this before. There was that one where there was the 5 guys and the 5 girls that had to survive or whatever.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys was, maybe they pick, quote, characters who are quirky and make for good TV.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But, on Beast Games, apparently they started with 2,000, but the Amazon series had it already narrowed down to 1,000 people. And, there's probably dozens, if not hundreds of cameras on all these people. And it very quickly it becomes apparent to the people, or to the crew, these guys make for good TV. We'll really focus on them.
Well, the footage is recorded of everyone, but of course they only choose the footage to showcase that is just this appalling situations. But that's why people watch, is because the true nature of a human being comes out when they're pressured with winning or sabotaging the situation.
This $5 million on the line brings out the worst in some of these people.
He's playing off of fear and scarcity.
Sure. Now, what you're not seeing is the 994 other people who didn't do anything extreme one way or the other.
Yeah.
But here's the handful of people who were extremely good or extremely bad.
But that doesn't make for good TV.
Yeah.
So given to Mr. Beast, obviously he's only choosing these extremes.
Yeah.
But on there, I don't know what the dude's name is, but he would.
Jeremy?
I don't know. He's the bearded, Al-Qaeda looking fella. But he was also, I want to say, on the 5 girls against 5 guys situation. I want to say he was there.
So I think someone said that he was on a different one. I don't know.
I said that, but I could be wrong. But I've seen him before, so he must have been on some sort of thing. The whole Al-Qaeda thing kind of stands out. But in this case, they show him as like a maniacal preacher type of guy that manipulates through religion, through following or whatever. Now, this is the problem that I have with religion, is because people use religion to manipulate the masses, right? Why did I bring this up? I don't know. For whatever reason I brought this up. But right, the conscious recognition of self as love exists within Christ consciousness. It exists within your facilitation of self, which is what people are drawn from to religion. But then what he's doing is doing the service by using his pain body I'm going to literally use religion to win $5 million, which is like, That is not what Jesus would have done.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
It comes across very, very bad, very, very, very poorly.
Well,
and you believe religious, not, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it
all
has
you.
nothing to do with religion. But if you had to judge sin,
you
had to judge sin and loving one another and spreading the word of Jesus, like he's doing the opposite.
It does. It comes across that way.
Anyway, so yeah. Wait, I don't know where I read that up. There was a reason. I have the cacao is congealing into the butter is coming out of it.
Oh yeah,
and so I'm just eating butter. Yeah, eating butter now. Yeah. So this is maybe a good place to end, but I will bring one more thing. Is it's interesting to me, and this is the part that I find confusing, that the world that I see, right, and I can see past space and time, and so it's difficult for me to discern what is it that I'm seeing. But the world that I see and the world that I interpret is not in zero.
Level zero,
and it's already level 1, if not at level 2. And so I am seeing that, but at the same time, I'm looking at my reality, and we're still shooting rockets, up the ass with gases. And I'm in such a disconnect, specifically about space travel, specifically about spacefaring energy, because what I'm accustomed to and what I interpret and then quite literally see it, and then know that it's there and know that we are already with something else. And like, it is such a big conglomerate, open interpretation of reality when it comes to us being spacefaring and having moon colonies and being on Mars and interacting with Galactic Federation and like going to Ganymede. All of that, like we have this as a list of things to talk about because I already know that that's the fact, and yet I'm not. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm just confused, utterly confused of where I am.
What's so funny is that I feel the same way about a different topic, and we've had, I'll say, discussions about this in the past where. You're saying, you're talking about this, I worded it as utopia, where, we don't need police and we don't need judges and we don't need, all the, contracts and stuff because people are just good and everybody lives together in harmony. And I'm like, yeah, but look at the news. Everybody's attacking everybody and we need, and now I'm like, now I see it. And yes, I still see we're not there. I still see, do I have a solution for peace in the Middle East? No, I don't. But at the same time, I know that shooting each other is not the solution. I know that much. So whereas you think I would be the space technical one, I see how it is today in 2025, and it's shitty in a lot of ways in the world. And I see how it is on a different level. And the disconnect there.
I'm not even saying that it's shitty. It's just,
I'm saying,
we're just so caveman-y.
We're shooting each other over the dumbest stuff where, not helping the people who clearly need help. And then homeless. There's a whole lot of societal problems that don't exist over here. And I see this as a real thing. And yet I see this as a real thing. And there is a disconnect. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating in a way. Because it's like,
we're
all so much happier over here. This is just better for every human on Earth. Why can't we?
Yeah, I know that. So that frustration that, when you and I had that fight 4 or 5 years ago, and how adamant I was like, no, like, do you know what? It was devastatingly heartbreaking for me not to be able to show this to you. Do you know what I mean? But I was already in that space of like, oh my gosh, there's this elated way of being where we're in symbiosis with everything. And then therefore we are what this discussion is on stage one.
Yeah.
And it's just,
right.
I'm not saying this is not perfect, because this is experience of Earth, and this is beautiful and perfect, because this is the path to ascending into oneness with our own selves. Like this is how we progress into oneness. But I already see us in oneness. And of course, I realize I reach across space and time a lot of the times. And so that is the only thing I can attribute this to, is just I'm not seeing linear progression of space and time, and then therefore I am already somewhere else. But then at the same time, the physicality is catching up to it. That is what I hope is happening, because that sounds pretty awesome. And in a way, if I'm already there, then I'm almost energetically pulling the physicality into the reality where I am already at. Does that make sense? If more of us spend time already being there, here, right, then seeing that true, and actually get confused about the disconnect between where I am and where that is.
Because it's like, I'll hear about something or see something, and I'm just like, how is that a thing?
Well, yeah, right. I've been confused for quite some time now.
Yeah. How really people treat each other like that? That's still a thing?
When I came onto Earth, and I remembered, when I was very little, before I could speak, evaluating reality, or even like as a 2 or 3 year old, that was one of the major point of confusions that I felt, was like, what is this? Right. And to begin with, like before,
it's like we're in caveman land.
Before the reality sets in, I was like, what is happening? And I was so confused about what is happening. Yeah, when you do dilute that with hot water. And it was such a shock to the system. But then, of course, reality sets in, the veil drops in, and then I forget that there's any other way. But now that the veil has lifted, I'm like, why am I still here? What is happening? And it's just shock. It's a
bizarre.
Shock.
It's really bizarre.
Especially if you and I go out into the real world and we talk to everyday people.
Yeah.
I'm once again shocked. Like every time I talk to somebody, it's a slap in the face of how shocking the world is.
Right.
And so, I don't know. But I have been used to that over the last 5 years about the pain body propagation, and then the blindness of that. But now what I'm confused about is, now I see the technological version of it being something else, right? Not only I see ourselves in symbiosis with ourselves and the unified field theory and love, and then thus using the energy on the level 1 of our consciousness, I'm seeing us on level 2. And then I'm seeing the technology that comes along with it. And then I'm seeing like what healing is. And I'm seeing what sickness actually is. And it is such a, I don't even have the words for disconnect, shocking disconnect of the truth that I know that I already am. And then where we already are. And then the disconnect. And so, obviously I'm bringing that energy into here, and I'm just through that shock going, yeah, this is not right. This is not right. This is not right. And I'm pulling ourselves out of that, my interpretation of that reality. And I know a lot of other beings are doing the same thing, right? Is they're anchoring in the reverse. Does that make sense? Like what we talked about, what Arrival movie did, is that you already see the reality as X. And then thus, because you're vibrating at the standpoint of X, you transverse time
in order to make sure X happens. Or I guess maybe make sure it doesn't. But yeah.
Yeah. So through transversion of time and space, you actually cause the current time and space to reflect the X, because you're pulling the reality into a very specific location.
That there's a series, Bodies, to a degree, did that a little bit on
in a negative way.
Yeah, that was a bit different. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I know other beings who are here are doing the same thing. But I just wanted to highlight that is how it feels to someone who's doing that. Like it feels like you're elsewhere, you're interpreting elsewhere, you have this technology already open and available, but you're so confused about the disconnect. So the only thing you can do is go, okay, I can just anchor this energy in. And so we're just anchoring that energy in and transversing the reality by forcing the ascension, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think there's beings here who just came for that. But if you are listening and you're also in the same standpoint of confusion, that is what's happening, is that you are already in the reality and then you're anchoring that reality into here. Yeah, I know that's a completely other sideline, but that's the part that I get excited about, is that the workings of that, of what it means to alter reality.
I mean, to a smaller degree, I think everybody, or a lot of people, do that, in that they have this idea of where, you could even word it as where they want to be, you know, a 5-year plan or whatever.
If it's not paid body based.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, in 5 years, I, want to be here. And, maybe that's a career, maybe that's a life, maybe that's a, some project or financial, have a house, have a car, whatever it is. And either deliberately, explicitly, consciously or not, it's like, okay, there's 5 years. Here's today. Well, I got to do this. I got to do this. And if it's, lay out steps or whatever it is, it's crafting the world, your life, your circumstances, the people around you, energetically, physically, to achieve that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
no,
that's a familiar idea, I think, to a lot of people.
But we already do that, because that is when we tap in, not from the fear-based standpoint, but from the open heart space into that etheric flow, and we utilize that as our reality.
And I almost want to make a distinction between, I think I want a new house in 5 years, so how would I get that? Versus, I see what my future is. How do I make sure that actually comes to fruition?
Yeah.
Which sound similar, but there's a difference between, I think I want this, I think I deserve this, let me go get it, which may or may not be true, versus I am 100% convinced about the eventuality of this future. I am going down that road.
Yeah. But to say the 100% conviction standpoint comes from that open heart space that you and I spent 72 episodes talking about.
I'm not even gonna. Okay.
Yeah, right. But that is where you are, right? When technology, even material technology right now, is manifested, when breakthroughs happen, is because somebody is living in that open heart space and is reaching beyond the potential of the current X into the unimaginable.
I mean, Elon Musk sold PayPal, and within days, he saw some SpaceX future, maybe vaguely like how SpaceX looks now. I don't know. He saw some future where he's got rockets that work and do stuff that no other rockets do. We'll put aside the fact that shooting hot gases out of the butt of a rocket, there may be other ways to get to space. But he saw that, and he just knew that was there. That was the future that he wanted. But that was his future. And he went down that road.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's this or this style, maybe somewhere in the middle, but.
Yeah, no, I do see that. So with Earth, here's the interesting, and this is, Elon falls under these rules because we are functioning in time and space, and majority of us are still vibrating the linear progression of time and space. You have to have a linear progression of development in order to get from here to there, right? Because we all cumulatively decide that the space and time has a linear progression, right? But when we exit out of the idea of linear progression and see ourselves as an energetic source, the linear progression of time and space no longer makes sense, or it doesn't have to be as part of our cumulative story. And thus you start implementing technology that do not need linear progression. I know I'm saying a lot there without saying it. But yeah, so if he's bound by the laws of material world, that is his progression in material world. But when he's not bound by the laws of material world, he's a different person with different technology. And so I will leave that there. Right. And so that's the reality that I already know exists and that I see, and then, which is super exciting. And that is a lot of development very quickly, a lot of progression. I mean, just like, I can't even snap my fingers right now because I'm so cold. A lot of like leaps and bounds, crazy amount of movement that Earth cannot comprehend right now if we are stuck in the material weighted down density. Mm-hmm. But the second you leave that density, you automatically switch into a reality where like, wait, how did that happen? And then Mandela effects come into effect. And this is what's going to be very interesting is all of a sudden we're going to look back and go, well, yeah, of course, this is how it has always been. Like, here's the space station. That is not the space station that we have right now. And here, here's Ganymede, and here's the base here, and here's the Galactic Federation they've been in contact with.
And how could it be any other way?
It was never any other way, right? Why so many people are talking about Mandela effect right now is people want us to get used to the idea that this mass level of amnesia is going to be okay because we can't even perceive, like, wait, what, Nelson Mandela did not die in prison? Right? Like, I grew up in Ukraine and he died in prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess I never thought that.
But in Ukraine, that was the reality, at least for my family, right?
Yeah.
So it is very real, right? But when you are in this disconnect, and now I realize what that disconnect is, you jump by leaps and bounds reality and level of interpretation because you have entered into etheric resonance with this future that was not there like yesterday, right? Right? Like people are like, oh, look, and this is, we're already super late into this, but I want to give this example. This is really cool. Right there, they discovered some sort of bacteria that now eats plastics. And now all of a sudden they have a solution for all the microplastics because this bacteria is basically going to take care of it all.
Right.
All of a sudden in 2025, when all of a sudden we are in awareness of microplastics and the fear thereof, and there's cumulative energetic effort into love and light to overcome this issue with love, not out of fear, but with love. We love Earth and we do not Earth to be drowning in microplastics. How do we solve this? And all of a sudden there's this natural thing that comes about that eats plastics.
Right. Because it's like, if you don't think of that, how could you solve microplastics? The best you got is maybe somehow collect them and let's either burn them or dump them in the ground. We got nothing better than that. Oh, hey, let's have something that just eats them. And, I assume poops out some sort of just benign poop. It's you couldn't come up with something better than that. That's like perfect.
But you couldn't come up with that. But the reason why it is here is because vibratory frequency of our heart has reached the point, not out of fear and scarcity, but out of love.
Right.
Enough people address that from the standpoint of love, of like, I love Earth. I love our existence. This is not right. What does love look like when it comes to us treating this planet better and not having to drown in microplastic? Right. And that love, unimaginable love, brings on this thing that all of a sudden we discover just when that pivotal point reaches a level where all of a sudden we love Earth and we don't want it to drown in microplastics. And now there's a bug that eats microplastics.
I'm curious. I don't know anything about this bug. I saw the thing, but I don't know anything about it. It's like, does it eat other stuff too? And it just happens to eat it? Or did it just happen to evolve to eat? Because it's like microplastics haven't been around for 100 years. So if the only thing it can survive on is that, then it didn't exist 200 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But that's an example of a resonance and our cumulative heartfelt energy of heart, of love, reaching a level where solution is like that. And then we're like, wait, what?
We need to make some more of those.
Well, no, but I just want to give an example of what a shift is, what a like unprecedented shift to where you're like, yeah, this is not linear progression. Where in the heck did this come from? Nobody saw this coming, and here's the solution. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So when more of us tune in into our heart frequency and become unified with our field of oneness as a self, this is like, it's going to go quick. It's going to go really, really quick.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so we should probably stop since the dog is losing it.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.